Rasha's parents sold the house. They were behind in payments, and Rasha's mother was convinced that the place was cursed anyway. Rasha also had to deal with the row of F's on her transcript. Having disappeared from the world for 3 months, she naturally failed all her classes. She went to speak to her dean and calmly explained her situation. He listened sympathetically. He listened sympathetically, said he was very sorry for what had happened to her, but then asked if she could provide some documentation to prove what she'd just told him. What kind of sick person would tell you that she'd spent 3 months in jail to get excused from her grades? She asked. You'd be surprised, he said. Rasha learned that her sister's classmates had organized around the family's case. Over 200 people from the school had signed a petition on her behalf, and the president of the university wrote a letter to the INS supporting the family. Right after her release, Rasha felt freer than she ever had in her life. Normal things like hanging out in Times Square or riding the subway had never been so exciting to her. But somewhere around her was the constant spit of all the 9/11 talk. She bit her tongue repeatedly, and the anger inside her would boil. She now had her own analysis about the way the country is run, and she had proof about the way people are treated. She wanted to scream at people. You don't know what you're talking about unless you've been in a situation like the one I've been in. But she didn't say anything. She knew that it was a contradiction, but she felt both stronger and totally drained simultaneously. She thought she had aged 10 years in 3 months. Her family never really addressed the trauma they had undergone. No one spoke openly about it, and Munir, in particular, seemed deeply injured. Neither he nor their father told the women very much about MDC's male wing, where later the government's own internal auditor would expose violent abuses that some of the post-September 11th detainees endured. Right after their release, Munir was joyous and full of life. He began praying regularly, 5 times a day, and was talkative and communicative. That lasted for about a month, and then he began retreating into silence. He became a distant island, hard to reach. Her mother continued to pray, and her father quit smoking, only to start up again after a bit. Rasha felt so close to and so distant from her family all the time. The closeness came from having emerged on the other side of such an experience. The distance was the inability of anybody to confront it. Only her sister sought outside help by going to a therapist for a while. Rasha put her energies into her future. She started thinking about all the lawyers and activists who had helped them, and she realized that she had to do something to help others in similar situations. Her interest in international relations and human rights grew, and eventually Rasha interned with a United Nations-affiliated organization on Middle East peace. She was also nominated by her university to be a delegate scholar at an international conference on diplomacy. It was a huge honor, but one she had to turn down. Rasha was still undocumented, so until her immigration status was resolved, she could not leave the country. And so she told me, if there's anything that I've discovered out of this whole thing, it's that people take for granted being a citizen of this country. They don't see the importance of having a privilege like that. I've been in this country for 18 years, and I'm working hard, and I'm qualified, but I've missed all these opportunities. I feel like it should be a lot easier than this. It's not fun. It's not fun. It's not fun at all.